This video is sponsored by Saily, a global eSIM service that makes staying connected simple, but more about that later. Today, let me be your agony aunt. Come to me with your troubles and annoyances and I'll give you my 2 pence. A while back, I asked you to tell me about your current personal struggles and oh wow, you delivered. Thank you so much to all of you who wrote me a DM or comment. I wish I could get back to all of you, but you know, I'm just one tiny person. Good news is that a lot of you asked about the same sort of problem, so I can discuss all of those in one fell swoop. Also, if your dilemma isn't brought up in this video, I have saved a whole heap of messages in a folder, so might make another one of these if you enjoy the format. Let me know if so. Okay, first question is from Ariana, but it's also the by far most commonly asked question I got. How to make deep felt, genuine friends and surround yourself with like-minded people as an introverted, bookish person. There were so many varieties on this. How to find like-minded people, how to deal with feeling lonely or like you're too socially awkward to make friends. I think we all feel lonely at times and like we're having difficulties finding friends. I have definitely felt this in periods throughout my life since, as you know, I've moved a lot and I've had to start from scratch with finding friends with every move. I mean, instead of answering this philosophically or, existentially, let me get really practical here and say very simply that what has always worked for me is finding common ground. Since David and I are self-employed, we have never had the convenience of getting to know new people through our workplace. So basically, if we wanted to make friends, we had to go out and find them. This is awkward. This is embarrassing to do. Ask people straight out, hey, do you want to go for a drink or a coffee with me? But it just has to be done. But yes, finding common ground, for me, since moving back to London in 2019, I've gotten to know people mostly through my interest in literature and mostly on Instagram. Another thing I did to get to know more authors was to invite them to my home. Basically, I threw a little literary get-together and invited a group of authors that I didn't know, just DM'd them asking if they wanted to come, and 20 of them did. A bunch of them didn't, but 20 did, and many of them now I call my friends and see regularly. Of course, this was a rather audacious move, and you need to have a hefty amount of social cockiness to pull a stunt like that. So I'm sure many of you introverts out there would not feel comfortable asking a whole lot of strangers to come to your home. So I think the beginner level of this is just to going to organized meetings, like book clubs or panel discussions or poetry readings or art clubs or group hikes. Whatever your interests are, I guarantee there's a group for it. I mean, there are apps for this. Actually, if anyone has used one of those apps, let us know which is the best one. But yes, I do think a common interest is such a social lubricant, especially if you're feeling socially awkward. So if you're into music, chances are you'll be able to talk to other music aficionados, even if you're a bit on the shyer side. Organized groups and chatting to people on Instagram. I think nowadays, that's the surest and least awkward way to make new friends. If you don't have the luxury to be introduced to new people through work or school or other friends. Or what do you think? Any success stories on finding connections in unlikely ways? I want to give a huge thank you to Saily for sponsoring this video. I always try to be mindful of keeping things simple and making life as seamless and stress-free as possible with, a varying degree of success. And one of the most stressful things, if you ask me, traveling. Don't get me wrong, I love traveling, but I also find it quite hectic to have to relate to a new place and figure out how everything works. And especially stressful, traveling without a reliable internet connection. Trying to navigate a new city or being able to work or, simply staying in touch with people. It's frustrating when you don't have service. That's why I recommend using Saily, a global eSIM service that makes staying connected effortless. With Saily, you don't need to swap SIM cards at every new destination or deal with expensive roaming fees. Just download the app, install your eSIM once, and you're ready to go in over 190 countries. No more trying to find a new SIM for every time you travel or worrying about roaming. Just instant, reliable internet. I love how Saily saves me time. I don't have to waste energy searching for public Wi-Fi or stressing over losing connection at the worst possible moment. Plus, Saily has built-in privacy protection so I can browse more confidently wherever I am. So if you're planning a trip or just like the idea of hassle-free connection, I highly recommend trying Saily for yourself. You can get an exclusive 15% discount on your eSIM plan by downloading the Saily app and using my code Jenny at checkout, or you scan the QR code on the screen. Thank you again to Saily for supporting this channel, and now let's get back to the video. Kaylee is asking, how do I know if I'm actually in love? How do I know if this is it? I think for most people who are very much in love, the immediate reaction to this question is just, if you know, that type of attitude. But I don't think that's very helpful, especially if you are like me, like a ridiculously, annoyingly overthinking person. And I mean, finding your partner is not like choosing socks in the morning, which granted, I often have trouble doing myself. It's like probably the largest decision in your life, finding a partner. So obviously it's easy to get in your head about it, especially with all the added pressure of society telling us how a romantic relationship should look. It's exhausting, isn't it? The nonsense that we're fed about romance. And considering most of those notions are based on patriarchal society structures, these ideas are not just nonsense, they're actually, if you ask me, often harmful. So to get out of your head and to get everyone else's opinion out of your head too, I've come to think that there's like a helpful way to look at the doubts that we have about, is this person the one for me? This is extremely oversimplified, but just like an interesting thought experiment that I've noticed when talking to friends going through this kind of doubt. I think that there are perhaps two different types of doubt, like the doubt that you feel when you're with a person and the doubt that you feel when you're away from the person in question. So in my experience anyway, just from observing friends, is that if you're feeling doubt about the relationship when you're with the other person, but not when you're separate from them, perhaps the idea of a relationship with this person is better than the actual relationship. On the other hand, if you're feeling good and secure and happy with the person, but start doubting the relationship when you're away from them, perhaps it's because your idea of what a romantic relationship should be doesn't match the relationship you're building with this person. Does that make sense? I'm sure there are a million exceptions to this way of thinking, but I just figure that feeling good when you're with a person is truly what matters. And if you're not feeling good when you're around someone, no matter how well you fit on paper, that's a warning sign to look closer and think hard. When I first started dating David, I had just come out of a long, serious relationship. And you know what everyone says? That you shouldn't jump into another serious relationship immediately after a breakup, and that the rebound person is never the right person to build a relationship with. So I had that in the back of my head, which made me more skeptical just from hearing it over and over again. But really, deep down, I already knew 2 weeks in that this was it. David was it. It took me longer to commit because I did overthink it, starting something serious so soon after a breakup. But the way I felt when I was with him, when it was just the two of us, the level of excitement and security and feeling seen, it was just unparalleled. Emma is asking, thoughts on imposter syndrome, particularly in the arts and writing. And this is another common question about self-doubt, about finding the motivation and work ethics to believe in and work on yourself and your creative endeavors. I think I try to treat self-doubt the same way I treat going to the gynecologist. We all have to go through it. It's not fun, it's awkward and exposing and sometimes a bit humiliating. Showing your creative self to others is an excruciatingly intimate and brave thing to do. But if you want to be a creative person, maybe even making it your career, self-doubt and exposing yourself is just non-negotiable. We all have to go through it. So I want to say it gets easier, but I don't think it does. In fact, I'm working on my third novel now, and I'm much more nervous about this one than I was with the first two. So I'm afraid this seems to be, for me at least, a matter of sucking it up and taking comfort in knowing it's the same for everyone. Feeling self-doubt is inescapable, but feeling it is not the same as acting upon it. It's one of those feelings that shouldn't be taken too seriously, otherwise we risk it crippling us. So I just try to feel the feeling without listening to it. That's hard to do and I don't always succeed, but I try to remember, what's the alternative here? Stop being creative? Unthinkable. So my dear friend and novelist extraordinaire, Molly Aitken, she asked me what to do when you have too many creative ideas and not enough time in the day and night. And oh, I struggle with this as well, as I'm sure many of you do too, even if it's not just with creative ideas specifically, but just like ideas and plans for life in general. Life is so big and so beautiful, but it's also so short. Like, this makes me panic a bit sometimes, how to get to see and do everything I want to see and do and read and eat. I mean, it's impossible, but my way of dealing with the stress of it is really quite basic and again, highly practical. I try to eat and exercise in a way that will prolong my lifespan. That's it. More years equals more eating and reading and traveling. And for me, especially, more years equals more written novels. So except for the issue with loneliness and friend making, this next question was the most common one from you guys. And it made my heart ache reading these because it's just a testament of what a wonderful community of people you all are. Like, that when I ask you to share your personal problems, the second most common response was about the struggle of living in a harsh and cruel world. How to deal with feeling so much empathy and softness and compassion that it burns you out and fatigues you. And this one would probably be the question I'd also ask if prompted to share my own personal struggles. I'm just born that way, I think, as I reckon a lot of you are as well. Like, as sensitive souls, we do tend to be drawn to each other. So one of the questions specifically was about how to deal with this while having a job that demands a lot of compassion and sensitivity and presence, in this case, a therapist. And I feel that if our work demands this type of empathy, like working with people or being creative or working for societal progression, I feel like if you engage that way, like sensitively with your work, we need to protect ourselves outside of work. Even if you're not working in a field that demands your presence and empathy, if you're a person with like surplus compassion, you probably need to protect yourself even so. So since I myself do struggle with this, how to not let the world get me down, like the meat industry, conflict, famine, racism, getting bombarded with the full force of human cruelty in the news every day, I have come to see this as two separate things. One thing is being aware of what's going on in the world and doing our bit to help. But it's a completely different thing to force ourselves to consume imagery of the atrocities around us. I don't need to see footage of starvation and conflict and factory farming to know that it's horrible. I can do things, small everyday things like donating to charities, speaking up against injustices, and stop supporting the animal industries by consuming animal products. I can, vote for political parties with generous refugee policies, and I can be mindful of my own prejudices and lazinesses without filling my eyes with footage and text that is too harsh for me. I don't need persuading. So ever since I became vegan, 17 years ago now, and I filled my head with all those images of human cruelty, I just don't anymore, because I'm simply not a robust enough person to be able to see the cruelty that humans are capable of and be okay. So I stay on top of things, like I know what goes on in the world, but I don't consume the worst of it. And although that makes me feel guilty, I know it's the only way for me to stay sane. And also another thing that makes me feel guilty, but I do it anyway, is to allow myself these moments of just going into my personal bubble that I've created and enjoying my life, forgetting for those moments that the world is in so many ways a horrible place. I think we all need to do that to recharge and stay healthy. And of course, it's an insane privilege to be able to do that, go into my safe bubble here in London and have a moment of peace and quiet, and a privilege that I'm so grateful for and that I wish everyone was granted. So until then, until safety isn't a matter of geography or gender or species, we need to keep speaking up, to be generous and to vote for the politicians whose priority it always is to protect the most vulnerable among us. We need to pay our taxes. We need to shrink the wealth gap. We need to open up our borders and just share. It's the first thing they teach you in kindergarten. Don't use violence, say thank you, and share your fruit. It's not quantum physics, is it? Anyway, I really went off topic there for a moment, but okay, I think for anyone with a decent amount of compassion, the world today will be a tough situation for us. I think giving ourselves permission to not overconsume the horrors of the world, to be aware without seeing too much footage, at least for me, that has been immensely helpful in learning how to deal with a broken heart and a loss of faith in humanity. That and moments of like pure kindness and tender human interaction. There is that too in this little world of ours, even if that's often difficult to remember when watching the news. Or what do you think? Do let me know how you deal with it, like the news and the meanness. I think for me, trying not to be a part of that, not to, be spreading mean energy around me, might not always make me feel better about the world, but at least it makes me feel much better about my place in it. Do you also feel like that? And what about loneliness? Are you struggling with it, finding it difficult to make friends, or are you dealing with self-doubt and imposter syndrome? Do share your thoughts on all of the above. I'm like dying to read your take on this and your success stories and your struggles, because I really enjoyed making this video. I always feel like it makes it more real to me somehow that we are, a whole lot of us with similar problems in this little community of ours. Hope you feel the same, strength in numbers and all of that. And let me know if you want me to make more of these videos in the future. Oh, and don't forget, my new novel, What a Time to Be Alive, is like the ultimate companion piece to this video, with a main character that is lonely, socially awkward, desperately trying to make friends, and way too sensitive for this harsh world. I'll of course leave links with worldwide free shipping for you in the description, and a massive resounding thank you to all of you who have already ordered a copy. You are just wonderful for doing that. Thank you for today, and hope to see you very soon. Okay, bye. And remember, if you want a stress-free travel experience, download the Saily app and use my code Jenny for 15% off your eSIM plan. Thank you again to Saily for supporting the channel.